Hello, hello. Welcome to Healthy Talk, my video podcast. My name is Dennis Wong. I'm a metabolic, nutritional, and metabolic and functional medicine consultant pharmacist in Winnipeg for Sin Pharmacy and Sin Nutritional. Today, I'm very excited because we got a treat for you. I have a special guest speaker, Jen Stevens, and she is the author of the New York Times bestseller Fast Feast Repeat. And also, what caught my attention is that she has another book, Amazon #1 uh, bestseller called Delay Don't Deny. And the reason I got really excited about reading those two, knowing about those two books and getting to know Jen is that as a pharmacy consultant, wellness consultant, I see a lot of patients that I work with trying to do fasting, or people that asking me, okay, should I do fasting? So, like for me, is every time I talk to them, people that are already doing fasting, they're exhausted. And from my understanding is if they are fasting properly, they shouldn't. So, Jen, what's the reason? Because I know you've been fasting for a long time and you got this podcast about fasting. I know you got over 400 podcasts about the fasting and proper way of fasting. So I'll let you sort of, share the information. Why are they exhausted even though
Awesome.
they're doing fasting?
Yeah, I'm super glad to be here and to talk about that because you've spent plenty of time with me over the
Yes.
past. We're in a health and wellness community together. Do I
Yeah.
seem like I'm suffering from low energy and
No, not
tiredness?
at
No.
all. Like you're always smiling, you're always full of energy.
Right,
And
right,
you're always talking about fasting and feasting. I'm like,
right,
okay, you know,
right,
there's something there because from my point of view, the way people are fasting, I'm telling people that, you know what? No, you can't fast because you have no
right.
energy. You don't have, you're missing. So
That's
for me,
exactly right. Yeah, and
yeah,
I'm gonna hold up my book because
sure.
the name really tells it all. We fast, we feast, and then we
Right.
repeat. And
Exactly.
it's not called fast, eat a little diet meal, repeat. The what we eat
I
is super
love
duper
that.
important,
Yeah, I
and I
love
think that,
that.
in our culture right now, we tend to think more is better always,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Well, if fasting is good, I'm going to fast like crazy. And oh, if, I'm trying to eat less, I'm just going to eat as little as possible. And so you're setting yourself up for failure. But yeah, I want to go back a little bit and tell just a tiny bit of my own story.
sure.
I look at my Facebook memories every morning as a part of my morning routine. I'm drinking my coffee, I'm watching the sunrise. I look at my Facebook memories. We've been on there a long time now. And so, I see when my boys were little, trips I've taken, lots of pictures of cats over the years. But I've reminded myself just this morning, exactly 10 years ago today, I
Wow.
was on a cruise with my family. And, the family photos are popping up from that cruise 10 years ago. And I was obese. I was 80 pounds heavier than I am right now. So 2014, I was a whole different person. I was like two people in one body. Because
Wow.
like
I
I said, I
cannot imagine you.
know
Yeah.
I was 210 pounds, and that is obese for someone who's 5'5". So when I got back from that trip and looked at all the family photos, and I was like, okay, it's time to do something. So I started intermittent fasting in 2014. I didn't actually start fasting until August of 2014, but I lost the weight I wanted to lose. And for the first time in my entire adult life, I've never yo-yoed or rebound weight gained or any of that. I'm wearing jeans right now. I think I bought these jeans in 2017 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm still wearing them. And
Nice.
it's been an amazing way to live. And if someone is doing intermittent fasting and they're not feeling good and they're not feeling full of energy, then there are definitely some things to troubleshoot because, there's some things that they can tweak. We like to say in our community, tweak it till it's easy, because it
Right.
really should feel easy and like a lifestyle. I would never stop doing it because I feel so good. I wouldn't want
Right.
to. But if someone is feeling lethargic and tired and not feeling their energetic best, like if you're still having mid-morning slumps and afternoon slumps while you're fasting, then there's something going on, because once your body is what we call metabolically flexible,
Right.
meaning you're able to tap into whatever fuel source is available. If you're
Hmm.
eating at the time, you're obviously your food is the nutrition that's coming in from your plate is fueling your body. But as you stop eating and you are fasting, you have a lot of stored fuel on your body for your body to tap into. It might be glycogen stored in your liver, glycogen in your muscles. And then for most people, if they're fasting, it's probably because they wanna tap into some stored fat on their body.
Right. Yeah.
So, we've got a lot of fuel. Even me, I'm at a healthy weight, and, I have an eating window every day that balances with my fasting, so I'm not gaining weight or losing weight. I'm at a place of balance right now. So my feast and my fast are balanced. If you wanna lose weight, obviously you wanna tap into more of your fat stores, so you have to set it up so that that will happen. And that's where, like I said, being metabolically flexible is
Right.
super important, and that
Yeah.
takes time. So when someone is starting on day 1 of intermittent fasting and they've been eating, the typical multiple small meals, they're probably not very metabolically flexible. They're running on the energy from the food that they're taking in.
Right.
And if you're someone who's a naturally restrained eater like my husband, he never needed to lose any weight. He's always been slim. He's lived in perfect balance his whole life. He eats small meals, then he eats a little bit later, and it just perfectly balances for him. Now, he does do intermittent fasting now just because he watched me do it and sees how
Right.
healthy it is. He doesn't do it for weight loss, he does it for the health benefits. But um, he never needed to tap into any fat stores for fuel.
Right.
But for someone like me, someone who's been storing extra fuel, I'd stored extra fuel for decades to get to
Right.
210 pounds. I had
Hmm.
lots of fuel to tap into. And so when I first started, my body was used to eating frequent small meals. So you're going to feel hangry at first. You're going to
Yeah.
feel a little, like what's going on? Your body doesn't know how to tap into your fuel stores very well at first. You have to rebuild that metabolic flexibility. So if you feel yucky for the first few weeks or you hit a rough patch, that's totally normal as your body is adapting to the fast. Once you get to the point where you're metabolically flexible, you should find that you feel good. You might have like a little wave of hunger at one point in the morning, and then you just, oh, I feel that. And then you keep fasting, and then your body flips that metabolic switch, and there's the energy. You're, tapping into whatever is stored on your body, and you're feeling great. So
Right.
that's a really important process that you have to understand. And I talk about this in my latest book, 28-day fast start day by day. This one
Right.
came out in December of 2023 and just guides people through the first
Yeah,
28
I
days.
gotta get that and read it.
Well, it's really I'm really pleased with how well it's working for people in my community that needed, maybe they've been fasting for a while and they've gotten a little sloppy and they need a little refresher for 28
Right.
days, like a little reboot. Or for people who are brand new, I would definitely start with this.
So with that.
It's day by day and it's like every day
Great.
you have
Great
things to
idea.
write
Yeah.
in. Yeah. But it
Yeah.
lets you know what to
Yeah.
expect.
Great idea.
So for someone who has been fasting longer and they
Hmm.
are not feeling good, they feel like their metabolic switch is never flipped. They're white knuckling it every single day. They're just not feeling it like, well, Jen said I would feel better once my body
Hmm.
adapted, but every day I'm white knuckling and I'm starving. Well, if that is going on, then I would bet that that person is not fasting clean. And, the clean fast is something that came out of my community in around 2017. My first book, Delayed on Deny, came out at the end of 2016. And so the terminology clean fast is not in that book. We weren't using it yet. But when people would join, I had large Facebook groups at the time.
Right.
And when people would join the groups, they would say, well, what can I have during the fast? And so we started, to explain all the things. And so we just finally said, well, you want your fast to be clean. You want to clean fast. And so the terminology stuck. And so probably a lot of people who are listening, if they've ever heard, anybody talking about fasting, you may have heard people talking about dirty fasting. And I don't actually like the term dirty fasting because you think if
Right.
there's something called clean fasting, there must be something called dirty
Dirty
fasting,
fasting. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But really, I actually believe you're either fasting clean or you're not really fasting. If you go to get fasted blood work or you go to have surgery and
Right.
the doctor says, "Are you fasted?" You wouldn't say, "Well, I dirty fasted." The doctor would say, "That's not fasting." And
No,
so,
exactly.
the same way you would clean fast before having blood drawn is the way that we want you to think about it. So, what is the clean fast? We're going to stick to black coffee, nothing added, plain water or plain sparkling water, and regular tea, actual tea.
Okay.
And like real tea, in any kind of
Right.
tea, green tea, black tea, oolong tea, if it's made from the tea
The
leaves,
chili.
exactly.
Okay.
All those herbal teas can get tricky. So, we
Good
why
to know. That
yeah,
was my question when you said actual tea, because a lot of patients that, come to me saying, "Oh, I'm drinking chamomile tea.
right.
I'm drinking, dandelion tea
Yeah.
because I want to help the fast and cleanse." And I'm like, I don't know.
Let me tell you
Right.
why not.
Yeah.
There are 3 fasting goals for the clean fast, and I get into detail in all of these in Fast, Feast, Repeat. But the 3 fasting goals, fasting goal number 1 is we wanna keep insulin low during the
Right.
fast. And, insulin is anti-lipolytic, meaning it halts fat burning. Insulin is a storage hormone, and
Hmm.
our bodies need to release insulin when we are eating. Obviously,
Right.
that's when we know we need insulin. If you're someone who's an insulin dependent diabetic, you know that when you eat, you have to inject insulin. But if your pancreas is working, your body is releasing insulin just on its
Right.
own. And actually, so many people, if they're overweight, are probably insulin resistant, meaning
Hmm.
their body has too much insulin all the
Yeah.
time. So we want to get our insulin down so that we can tap into our fat stores for fuel. So obviously, we're not eating any food. But what else might cause an insulin response? And this is where people get surprised. Um, I remember when I read the obesity code in 2016, Dr. Jason Fung explained something called the cephalic phase insulin response. And I'd never heard of that. Cephalic meaning brain.
Yeah.
Um, it has to do with taste and what our body is expecting. So let's think back, to the chamomile tea or the dandelion tea or apple cinnamon tea or anything that's
Right.
going to have a food like or sweet flavor
Hmm.
profile. If we think about nature, all the things in nature that are sweet, honey,
Yeah.
fruit, sugary thing, anything like that, our brain recognizes. We taste the sweetness from the honey. Maybe it's 1,000 years ago. We're just eating honey in the wild. Our brain says, sweetness means we're about to have a sugar load coming in. We better
Right.
go ahead and release some insulin
Insulin.
and
Hmm.
just get ahead of it a little bit. Go ahead and
Yeah.
the sweeter it is, the more
Yeah.
insulin we're going to need.
Yeah.
And so that's the cephalic phase insulin response. Well, obviously we don't want to have sugar or honey during the fast, but they did an interesting experiment with rats or mice, some kind of little rodent, where they
Hmm.
painted the oral cavity of those little rodents with artificial sweeteners. So these were 0-calorie sweeteners, and the rats and the mice weren't even swallowing them. They just painted the oral cavity so they tasted it.
Yeah.
Well, they had a cephalic phase insulin response. The
Wow.
scientists measured a measurable insulin response from just the taste. The brain said, "Ooh, sweetness," even though there were no calories. There was no actual glucose or sugar molecules or anything like that coming
Yeah.
in. Their brains didn't know the difference. So then they continued the experiment. They severed the nerve from the tongue to the brain and
Hmm.
repeated it. So the little rodents could no longer taste any sweetness. There was no cephalic phase insulin response.
Interesting.
Right. So it's the taste that matters. So that's why you don't want to have like Powerade Zero or
Yeah.
Diet Coke or
Absolutely.
a sweet herbal tea like the apple cinnamon or even a chamomile that could have a sweetness to it
Hmm. Hmm.
or anything that's going to make your brain think food is coming in. So you have to be really, really cautious with that. So that's fasting goal 1. Keep insulin low. Don't put lemon in your water. That's not
Oh, not even lemon.
not during the
Hey,
fast.
I
Right,
learned
right.
something,
Yeah. And
because I tell people to do, lemon water when
and
you're
that would be a
fasting.
great way to open your eating window. If you're someone
Okay.
who, believes in, having some lemon water when maybe someone's used to having it first thing in the morning
Yeah.
and they you could just delay that. You're opening your window, you're breaking your fast. That's your break fast, whatever
Breakfast.
time of the
Okay.
day that is.
Okay.
Maybe open with some lemon water. But let's think about the cephalic phase insulin response. What does insulin do? It lowers your blood sugar, right?
Mhm.
That's what it's designed to do. So
Yeah.
let's imagine you're fasting along and your blood sugar's steady, 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 and you have something that causes this cephalic phase insulin response, but nothing came in. Like maybe it's just lemon water,
Right.
not enough calories. It's not going to raise your blood sugar.
Yeah.
Insulin is then going to lower your blood sugar. Now you're going to feel
Then you get
shaky
shaky.
and
Yeah.
hungry.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
actually experienced that personally. I've been at a restaurant about to open my window, ordered some club soda with lime, had been fasting clean, perfectly fine, drink the club soda with lime because I'm
And I
about to
guess.
eat. And then I'm
But
like suddenly starving, like so hungry.
wow.
And,
Yeah.
if you didn't know the difference in how you feel when you're fasting clean,
Exactly.
you wouldn't notice. But I know the difference. So a
Yeah.
little lemon, little lime, fruity essence, flavored
It's gonna.
water,
Yeah.
flavored
Yeah.
LaCroix. Avoid all of that. You don't want that
Okay.
taste
Good to
sensation.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. It
So
makes
it's clean water, like plain water,
Yep.
like
Like I've
coffee.
I've
Yeah.
got my San Pellegrino right here,
There
but
you go.
it's hard to find unflavored things now.
I
Like,
know everybody want flavor, so
I
everything is flavor. It's
well,
I yeah.
look at the obesity epidemic and look at everybody putting something flavored in their mouth
Yeah.
every second. Tell me there's
Exactly.
not
Yeah.
a connection
Exactly.
somewhere,
The
but
other thing that I want to kind of discuss in the same way as the whole insulin spike and stuff is my background and area that I work is chronic stress
okay. Yeah.
and chronic exhaustion, like adrenal dysfunction.
Right.
So when I work with the patient, I tell them that you need to manage your stress, you need
Oh,
to do
yeah.
meditation, etc. Otherwise, the cortisol spike, fight or flight, will actually bring out sugar glucose
Mhm.
into the bloodstream, and that will also cause the insulin spike.
It's
And
true.
if that's happening all the time, that's again, contributing to the whole insulin resistant. And
It's true.
so, you know,
And if I could speak to that just for a
yeah,
minute, because,
absolutely.
fasting is a stress on your body, but so is exercise, right?
Hmm.
And so when it comes to fasting, like for me, what was really stressful for me was being overweight and having to make food decisions all day. Is it time to eat? Should I eat? Should I eat this? Should I eat that?
Right.
That led to a very stressful day. But
Hmm.
now that I'm doing intermittent fasting in a way that feels good, remember I said earlier, we're going to tweak it till it's easy.
Right.
It doesn't feel more stressful. It feels like it's relieved stress from my life, and so I don't have the stressful feeling that I used to. I'm like, "Well, my window's not open yet." And so it's just easy. I just keep going. I feel good. So now that was just the first fasting goal. Can I share
Hmm.
the
Yeah,
second
please.
two fasting goals? All right. Fasting goal 2 is that we want to tap into the stored fuel that's on our body, whether
Right.
that's our glycogen stores or our stored fat.
Right.
And so we do that by not taking in any fuel during the fast. And that might sound pretty obvious, but then it isn't, because you start looking at, different fasting proponents out there, and they're like, "Oh, I want you to drink my bulletproof coffee and put the butter in your coffee and put the MCT oil in your coffee and all of that, and put
That's
up
what
just a
I'm
little
having.
bit of my special
Coffee. Yeah.
creamer." Are you having black coffee or you got something
um,
in there?
I got coconut milk in there.
Well, that would be food, right? Coconut
Right.
milk is food. So would we have that during the fast? We would not. That would be
We
part of
would
your
just have
eating window.
black. Yeah. So
Right. So when you're fasting, you can find YouTube videos and books and experts who tell you it's fine to have 50 calories of cream or put a little butter in there or whatever it is. But if you want to tap into the fuel that's already on your body,
then you don't want to put those.
you don't
Right.
wanna have right. Do you wanna burn the fuel from your coffee cup or the fuel from your body, right?
Yeah.
And, even something like a little tiny low calorie amount of almond milk or something, your body's gonna that's gonna taste like food.
Yeah.
It's gonna have a food flavor. So that's gonna mess up fasting goal number 1 and fasting goal number
Two.
2.
Yeah. Good
So
to know.
yep. So black coffee only. Don't add anything to it. I could send you 100 YouTube videos that tell you it's okay to put anything in your coffee,
I know.
collagen, anything, but
Yeah.
I promise you wanna stick with black, no matter who tells you otherwise. And the third fasting goal is we wanna experience increased autophagy.
Right.
And, autophagy was a word no one had ever heard of until, I mean, I'm sure people had heard of it, obviously. Top
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
scientists were researching it. They had heard of it, but everybody else had never heard of it until 2016. And in 2016, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was awarded for autophagy research, a Japanese researcher. And he reported that what increased autophagy, well, lots of things do, but fasting is one of them. Fasting
Right.
increases autophagy, exercise does, black coffee does. But, what is it? Autophagy is our body's recycling system. It's like upcycling or recycling. Nothing's coming in. So your body says, well, nothing's coming in. I can do some cleanup. I can recycle some of these old junky cell parts or junky
Right.
proteins that are laying around. If someone is losing a lot of weight, maybe they've got some excess skin their body can break down. Like I lost 80 pounds and I don't have hanging skin. My body ate it up,
Mhm.
used it
There
up,
you
and
go.
and
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
skin bounced
because
right
that's
back.
one of the thing that, people say, "Oh, I lose so much weight now and I got flabby hair,"
Yeah,
or, and they don't know what to do with it.
you've seen my
And
arms. Do they look
yeah,
flabby?
no,
No.
no.
I'm wearing a sweatshirt today, but,
Yeah.
so I did, autophagy. We want to promote autophagy while we're fasting, and the clean fast does that. Well, what would turn off autophagy or downregulate it? Well, eating, but also protein. So that is why you want to avoid something like bone broth, because that would be a source of protein. So avoid that while you're fasting. So you just want
Right.
to fast clean, plain water, plain sparkling water, black coffee. Don't buy flavored coffee like hazelnut or vanilla. You don't want the
Yeah.
flavor. Plain tea, real tea. And, one thing that we really love in my community, someone in my community named it MT, EMTEA, like the word
Mm.
empty, but it's
Okay.
MT. It's just hot water in a mug. And it
Oh,
is so
okay.
soothing. Hot water in a mug.
Absolutely. I love,
I love
especially,
it.
up in Canada, right?
Yeah.
When it's cold, that's all I want is hot water
Yeah.
so that I can warm myself. And it's like you said, it's really soothing in that, cool weather outside.
Well, now I want you to call it MT because I think that name is
Yes,
perfect.
I
Empty,
learned another new
MT.
term.
Yeah. So we've talked about two reasons why someone might be feeling really lethargic and not good during the fast. One is that they haven't given it long enough for their body to flip the metabolic switch. The second reason is that they're not fasting clean. And for anybody who's like, well, but I watched that video and I think it's okay to have, whatever it is you think it's okay to have, give it a month. Take the clean fast challenge. You're going to feel so good. You're not going to go back to whatever that video said you could have. So, the third reason why someone might be feeling depleted and not their best would have to do with their eating window. And you want to fuel your body well because how you nourish your body matters. I know you believe this, Dennis,
Absolutely. Yeah.
wholeheartedly. And, the foods that you eat, food is medicine. And
Yes.
so, if you're not giving your body the right nutrients, during your eating window, you will not feel your best. I'm somebody who has really, when I started intermittent fasting, it's probably no surprise if I was, 80 pounds heavier than I am now and obese, that I was not eating the best diet, right?
Right.
I'm sure you could imagine that.
Yeah.
I was eating
Yeah.
probably the standard American diet. I had a lot of fast food. I was a teacher. I had two, boys at home, and we had to eat quickly on the go, things that everyone would eat. And so I did not nourish my body very well. So I just started intermittent fasting and started losing weight. Didn't do anything with my diet at first. But over time, even as I was getting towards, my initial weight loss goal, I realized, if I delay processed foods or choose to not have these ultra processed foods, I lost weight much, much more quickly
Right.
when I changed my food quality.
Mhm.
And, at the time, I just thought of it as, well, I'm trying to lose weight more quickly. I'm going to eat better. And that really made a huge difference, not
Yes.
having the ultra processed foods and just eating real food. I was losing about 2 pounds a week at that point with fasting plus eating really high quality
That's
foods.
nice.
It
Yeah.
was nice. And that was at the end when I was almost at my goal. The weight loss picked up when I started
Mhm.
eating better.
Mhm. I'm sure.
It really did. But what happened that was funny is the better that I ate over time, the better I wanted to eat. Like, I don't wanna go eat, fast food now because my gut microbiome has changed,
Right.
if you're eating a standard American diet, you've trained or you've fostered a gut microbiome that craves that food. But when
Exactly.
you start eating, I love I'm a lot more plant-based these days, just naturally. Like, used to, if I was gonna go out to eat at a restaurant, I would have, like, a steak and, b
Yeah,
big
yeah,
meat-heavy dinner, but
yeah,
now we went out a few weeks ago, and I was like, "Ooh, this beet salad looks amazing," red beets and golden beets and,
yeah. It's like,
mixed greens.
colorful, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, my body craves different foods now. And, I'll be 55 this year and I've just really never felt better. I eat a lot of legumes. I don't avoid really anything. I just eat nourishing foods that make me feel my best.
Yeah, so and that's the thing, every time I talk to a lot of people, we we all agree that the food is the key to it. So I always talk about food and I always look at their food. And
Right.
a lot of people, like you said, standard American diet, fast food. And I myself got into the whole this wellness and stuff is because about 20 years ago, probably even longer, when we started our pharmacy, like Cindy and I started our own pharmacy 27 years ago. And with, running the business and rushing all of this, fast food was easier,
Yeah.
right? And so for us, every day lunch is fast food, and then dinner you wash it
Hmm.
down with Coke. And that literally, even though I never really gained weight, my energy totally dropped.
Oh, yeah.
And by 3 o'clock, I need a nap. To the
It's
point
true.
that, we actually bought a full up cot to put it in the back room of the pharmacy so I can go nap. I
That's
was
so
that
funny.
bad. I'm like, this is not good.
No.
So we started eating clean.
Hmm.
And with that, then I got all my energy. I talk to a lot of people. I know that you say you're more on the, plant-based now, but I still talk to a lot of patients that come and work with me to have the protein and stuff
Right.
just because their body is under a lot of stress
Hmm.
and protein is one of the good source. But I tell them half a plate of vegetables multicolor, and then your palm size of protein, and then the rest, whatever left space left on the plate, you can have whatever complex carbohydrate. And
Absolutely, and it's funny watching me and my family eat. I have, 2 boys and my husband. My children are adults now, one's 24 and one's 26, and the 26-year-old is married to a vegetarian.
oh wow,
So they don't eat meat at all at home. They get their protein. I mean,
from that,
he
yeah,
will eat meat if he's out.
right, yeah,
I've seen him eat chicken and stuff. But he's not a vegetarian. But his wife, he's mostly vegetarian. At home, they're 100% vegetarian. But yeah, they eat eggs and they get their protein through
right.
beans. And there are a lot of proteins in the vegetable world. If
Yeah,
you're
you just have to
soy,
know, right? You just
yeah,
have to know properly. And the issue come in is that when, you're not paying attention what you're
right.
eating, and you have to have all that balanced stuff.
It's
And that's
true.
the key. And that's why like I'm happy that, you're talking about, okay, you just not just like, you gotta clean fast, and
Right.
then you gotta really eat nutritious
It's
food.
true. Yeah.
If you're eating just because, like, you tell me that, oh, I'm fasting 16 hours or 18 hours, which is, quote unquote max, you know better than what time frame, etc. But just because you're doing this long fast does not mean anything if you're not really feasting during the time.
Right,
So
well, your body has to rebuild, right? And you wanna
exactly.
rebuild with good building blocks, and you
Yeah.
need the nutrients, and,
Yeah.
I was born in 1969, raised through the '70s, '80s, we were taught in school about nutrition that you just needed vitamins, but, oh, you can get those from Flintstones.
I know it's scary, isn't
Just
it?
take a vitamin, and even,
Yeah.
like, the commercials on TV were like, "Have you take your vitamin." So I was
Yeah.
like, "Who needs vegetables? Everything we need is in that little vitamin."
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, same for me.
Not
I like
true.
never like vegetables because of that fact. Okay. And when I was younger, like Apollo were going to the moon and stuff. And in my, dream was I'm gonna go live on the moon. And for meal, I just take this big pill once
And
a
drink
day.
some Tang,
And
remember? They made
exactly.
Tang
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
astronauts.
Yeah.
Tang is
Exactly.
better
And
than
then
orange juice.
and then I have the whole day to play. right?
Right.
I'm on the moon, nobody can make
Yeah,
me do anything type of
yeah.
thing. So
So
I know
funny.
all that information that we've been fed, and it's just not good at all.
Yeah.
So I remember initially you said, okay, when you are eating window that don't eat small meal, or do you still eat small meal, or what would be I know everybody's a little bit different.
It's true, and it just depends on your preferences, and as I mentioned a couple times already, the phrase that we use in our community is "tweak it till it's easy," and the key
Right,
to that is what works for me is not what's gonna work for you,
right,
and you're going to need to find the rhythm that works best for you. I open my window, I mean, this probably will sound surprising to you, Dennis, but I open my window usually around 2 in
wow,
the afternoon, and I close at around 7. So I have about a 5-hour eating window every day. Now that's not carved in stone. I might open at 1 another day, or
right,
another day I'm
and then you
busy, I
might
open a
close
little
it
later.
earlier. Yeah,
Exactly. And,
yeah,
or maybe I'm out to brunch today because it's just a special day. So,
right,
it really does vary. But someone else might feel better with a morning eating window. They wake up in the morning, they have their morning eating window, and then they close it, and then they like to go to bed feeling a little more empty, not with any food at all, still being digested. I don't sleep well if I eat earlier in the day. I have to shift mine
I
a
see.
little bit later. That just,
Yeah,
but over time is what I figured it out. So I tell that to say that there is no like, here is what time you should start, what time you should stop, and here's how you should space it out in your window. That's really going to vary. If you're somebody who, like my husband, he opens his eating window at 11 every
okay,
morning. He starts at 11. He has his lunch. He kind of eats a little bit of this, a little bit of that till he's had enough. His satiety cues have always been great. He hears his "I've had enough" signal really
and that's it.
strongly.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And then he absolutely does not have another morsel of anything until 5. He will not. Like if I'm
wow.
like, "Oh, it's 4:47. Would you like to have?" No, it's not 5 yet. He will not. He doesn't
Oh,
eat at all.
wow,
And then at 5, he has a little something, at that time, little it could be a little almond butter sandwich or a little salad, something like that. Then we have dinner together usually around 7.
7,
And so that's how he structures his eating window. Whereas for me, I have something I like to call it a hearty snack, but most people would probably call it lunch around 2 o'clock. It's usually very veggie forward. And then I'll just eat until I've had enough of that. And then we have dinner later. And my dinner is usually pretty substantial and satisfying. And maybe a little bite of something sweet, some strawberries to close my window.
right, right.
So it's
Yeah,
really just all about finding out what works for you.
I'm glad you said that because, a lot of people come to me and say, well, I was told 16 hours good. I was told 18 hours. I'm like, everybody is different.
Yeah.
Everybody, physiology and metabolism is
Mhm.
different. And
Right,
so
and if you're someone who likes to eat big meals, right?
yeah,
Like, I am more of a volume eater than my husband. I can eat more than
mhm,
him at a meal. So, just I just eat differently than he does, and so you've gotta figure out what works for you. And so you wanna eat in a way that you're balancing the fasting with the feasting for you. That's what matters the most. And we're not trying to have the shortest eating window possible with the
no.
least amount of food in
No,
there.
I'm glad you said that. A
Yeah.
lot of people, their mindset and based on, like you said, watching all these videos and whatever information that they can find, and everybody think that the longer you can fast is the better. And then I'm like, no, it doesn't work
No,
that
it's
way.
not the fasting Olympics, right? We're not trying to win a
Exactly.
gold medal here.
Yeah,
We're trying to
exactly.
balance it for your
Yeah,
body. And the thing is that your body will tell you over time. If you feel once you've, become metabolically flexible, you're fasting clean, you're adapted, you should feel better and better over time. If you
right.
don't feel better and better over time, then there's something
And something
missing.
missing.
You might be
Exactly.
over fasting, you might be undernourishing your body.
Right.
So
Or
listen to
there
your
may be,
body.
a bit of the extra stress that you
Right.
are putting it
Mhm.
through your body. And
Right, and you could be over exercising as well because
Mhm.
people might be like, "I'm gonna start doing intermittent fasting, I'm gonna have a 5-hour window, I'm going to go to CrossFit, I'm also going to only eat, this little bit of food every day." That's way too much all at one
Yeah, yeah,
time, so
I know. And there's some people in their mind is that, oh, like they count calories so much and saying, oh, I want the 2000 calorie deficit a day. And I'm like, I don't think this is,
No,
healthy at all.
no.
But some people are doing that. And I'm
Mhm.
like, you know what? You should look at it. And sometimes those people will say, I'm a little bit exhausted today, but I'm going to push it through. I'm like, you're probably cutting too much,
Right,
meal food out of it because you're not having enough. You're looking at this calorie deficit only, and your mindset is, even though I'm tired, I'm gonna push through because it's
mhm,
mindset. Yeah, mindset's great, but you're pushing it over extreme and you're stressing yourself and not feeding your body properly, then that's become in the long run, I think, become a concern. So
yep,
I'm glad you brought up that, over exercising. That's one of the other thing that I talked a lot is that people come to me and saying, I'm exercising 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, and I'm gaining weight. I said, it's
right,
because you're over exercising, right?
right,
Now the insulin thing coming into play, cortisol's pushing so much insulin out, and whatever glucose that come out from burning your fat or glycogen from the muscle and all of that got pushed back into storage fat.
right,
And so all of that, you have to, it's not just one thing, right? You got to
right.
look at what you're doing and how much stress you're, you know, encountering and all of that. And I'm really glad that, we had this conversation a couple of months ago saying,
Yep.
you need to really feast in that window. You got to have a nutritious meal,
And
not,
can I even pop in
yeah,
the whole idea of, carbohydrates? You mentioned complex
yeah.
carbohydrates. I think a lot of people, particularly women, fear carbs.
Hmm.
And, we've been taught, "Oh, carbs equal weight gain." And I'll say to someone will say, "I eat too many carbs." I'm like, "Well, tell me what you mean by that." And they'll say, "Well, cookies, potato chips, pizza." I'm like, "Do you understand that you just named foods that have highly processed carbs plus a
Hmm.
lot of fat and very few nutrients?" If we're
Exactly.
talking about complex carbs, real carbs, whole
Yeah.
grains,
Yeah.
I think that we need those foods in our
Oh,
diet, and,
absolutely.
I mean, we're all different, I'm a
Yeah.
big believer in
Yeah.
bioindividuality where that's
Yeah.
concerned, but if someone is feeling stressed out and you have restricted carbs, you may be someone whose body needs to have more carbs. I have one of those bodies. I tried keto when I got off that cruise ship and needed to
Yeah.
lose the weight. I did keto for the entire summer of 2014. I felt awful. I lost 0 pounds. My
Right.
body doesn't do well with
No.
that.
No.
And
And the other thing that I've mentioned, talk about carb is that, like, people even like, oh, baked potatoes, pasta, etc. And there's actually study done that if you need that, your physiology need the carb. What you can do is actually cook those and
mhm.
keep it in the fridge 24 hours or 48 hours, and they became resistant starch.
Yep, and that feeds your gut microbiome.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So, that's the trick that you can do. Like, I'm one of those that, again, need the carb
I
because
do
I'm
too.
very thin. I don't
Mhm.
have a storage a lot. So I need to have my carb. So that's what I try to do is, whatever I want to eat, like bread and stuff, I may freeze it after I, bought it, and then I will thaw it and toast it before, and so that I get the complex carbohydrate from these. I buy whole grain bread,
Mhm,
whole
mhm.
grain pasta, etc. And
Me too, yeah.
I have not touched potato for a long time.
See, I eat a lot of potatoes. They work really well for me. I just eat them. They work really well as far they don't make my blood sugar go crazy. I've worn a CGM. They
For
work.
me, was it's just sort of after I eat it, I feel really heavy and
Oh, you see,
lethargic,
I
so I
don't.
don't. Right.
Like
So
yesterday, I
again,
for my when I opened my eating
yeah.
window, probably yesterday it was about 1:30 because I had these potatoes and I was really excited to eat them. So I made so many roasted potatoes, you probably wouldn't believe it, and I, like, tossed them in this dill
Oh,
seasoning
nice.
and salt and roasted them in the oven. At first I boiled them, then I roasted them in the oven so they were perfect, and I just ate that. And I
Right.
felt so satisfied and energized for the whole rest of the afternoon.
So,
Like, they
see,
didn't make me have a crash, so
that's the thing, like you said, bio
yeah,
individuality,
yeah,
it's everybody's a little bit different.
right.
So for me, I cannot eat baked potato unless I'm gonna put it in the fridge for, a couple of days type of
Mhm.
thing. Um, Yesterday I made the roast chicken. So I actually, when I was eating, my craving was apple cider vinegar. And we use
Oh.
that as a salad, but yesterday I poured that in a dish, and that was my dip for my roast chicken.
I actually dipped my potato wedges into some vinegar as well when I was eating
Yeah,
it.
so,
It was so good.
everybody's different,
Yeah,
and again, uh, you know, you have to figure out what works for you. The
yeah,
key thing is that you need to, uh, you know fast clean like you said,
right,
and when you're eating, you really have to feast properly, not fast food, not chip, all of that. So
right.
I really appreciate that, you said that because I've been in this health community with you for a couple of years. I'm fairly new and I'm watching everybody, and I have this issue of people coming to me and saying, I'm doing intermittent fasting, but they look totally exhausted. I'm like, no, no, no. I gotta talk to Jen and I gotta bring Jen on so
Yeah,
that, they understand that what is the proper way of fasting.
love it. Well, if you're feeling terrible, you're doing something wrong because that you should not be feeling terrible. And,
No,
like you
no,
mentioned my
yeah,
podcast, Intermittent Fasting Stories, and,
yeah,
I've now recorded 420 something episodes.
right.
And, people talk about how much better they feel as intermittent fasters. Nobody's like, "Well, I started doing it, now I feel exhausted." No,
Exactly,
it's people
exactly. I
who feel
listened to a
great.
few of them
Yeah,
because I'm like, you know what? You got the whole community there
yeah,
that following you and working with you and, talking about it. And so I'm like, hey, I need to listen to a few of the podcasts. And so I did. And I'm like, okay, this is good.
yeah,
We can like always having the good knowledge. And, then I'm hoping that people will use that
mhm,
and tweak it for themselves. It's not,
exactly,
okay, because Jin does this, I have to do this. It's the
exactly,
guideline, and we talk about individuality,
mhm,
how, to eat, what to eat, but what it's gonna work for you, what food, etc.
mhm.
It's different than, you to me to other people.
And learning to listen to your body.
Yes, absolutely.
If you had eaten that big old plate of potatoes like I had yesterday,
Yeah.
you would have not
I
felt your
wouldn't
nose.
know. No,
No.
I wouldn't. Yeah, so for me, as I'm a little bit heavy on the protein,
Right.
and I'm finding it that last week I was eating so much protein, but not enough veggie. I wasn't
Oh,
feeling good. So over the weekend, my plate was almost all vegetables.
yeah,
And
vegetables for the win.
yeah, you gotta play with it,
Yeah,
right? You gotta balance. When you're missing something, your body will tell
mhm.
you. You cannot just push through.
It's
You
true.
have to listen. So
Yep.
much appreciated,
Well,
Jen.
thank you, Dennis.
And I will see you in the next retreat that in June.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.